Welcome back to Badger Blitz TV on the Rivals.com network, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. From the recruiting trail to inside Camp Randall Stadium to on the court at the Kohl Center, I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Rivals.com national recruiting analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, good to see you as always, buddy.
Always a pleasure. It looks like I need to shave, but excited to be here and ready to be awesome, man.
Let's do it, man. Let's get right into it. Well, one thing that Wisconsin Badger fans will note, it was a tough week, at least in Camp Randall Stadium for the Badgers. And that was made doubly tough because they had some really big name recruits in the building. Ryan Montgomery, the super talented 2025 quarterback we talked about. They had kids from, class of 23, 24, all in town. What sort of impact does that kind of loss have on a kid who is visiting in your experience?
I don't think it has much impact at all. Maybe it can for a kid who's all caught up in, I better compete for a national championship every single year. But most kids aren't thinking like that. Most guys are looking for opportunity and looking at the atmosphere, evaluating the coaches, the fans. I would almost say now there's two kind of derivatives to this. The first one being, if it's a huge win and the fans rush the field and it's like, that adds to everything. I remember the Iowa Penn State game last year and kids were there and talking to them after it. They're like, I've never heard a stadium that loud. It was insane, and it made a big impact on them. But that being said, without knowing the atmosphere at Camp Randall, I wasn't there. I didn't watch the game, unfortunately. But I'd imagine since it was a close game that the crowd was involved and there was a good atmosphere. And that can sometimes be better than just going and blowing out a team by 60 points where the fans show up late and they leave early and you don't really get to feel the full atmosphere. So long term, I really don't think it has much of a play. If anything, sometimes guys see, there's an opportunity there where I could have helped win that game. And they're really evaluating much more than just the outcome of the game. If you win a big one and it's crazy, if we're talking Matt Shaver to Lee Evans at night, that can make an impact and seal the deal. But, I don't think it has too much impact at all. In fact, I talked with Ryan Montgomery's dad. We were texting yesterday, I believe. And he's like, you know what? That was a special place. He's like, we ended up staying for the majority of Sunday, too, just because we enjoyed ourselves. So I don't think that the loss will have an impact. If it does, it's probably a guy who wasn't meant to go to Wisconsin anyways.
Yeah, for sure. I would imagine that if you've been in contact with a school for that long that you're going on a visit, one game is not going to really sway your overall experience too much. Unless you said it's one of those super outlier experiences like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So one position that we're going to switch now to looking at some recruits like we do every week. And it's linebacker week here on the show because John McNamara just recently put out his Ideal Class 9.0. A couple names in there that may be unfamiliar to some Badger fans, especially if you haven't really been digging into the nitty gritty. We're going to look at 5 different linebackers / edge rushers today from the state of Wisconsin, 3 from the class of 23, 1 kid from 24, and then a really special kid from the class of 25. We're going to start, though, on the edge in the class of 23. And one of the things that we see a lot of, coaches who coach outside linebackers, edge rushers, they're always talking about the importance of length in their players. And that's one of the physical traits that they really look for. Evan Herman, a 6'6" edge rusher from Sussex. He's listed 6'6", 210. He's got length, Clint. Why is length so important for these guys in general?
Length is important at a number of positions. The reason why it is so important at the edge position is because you've got to be able to keep offensive tackles, especially big offensive tackles that are athletic. You got to be able to keep their hands off of you. And one way to do that is to initiate contact and slap their hands away or use your long arm to keep them off of you and prevent them from blocking you. So if you have the athleticism to go along with the length, that makes a big difference. You are a much different player to block. You have to, as a tackle, you have to approach the way you're going to, defend, in a sense, that player based off of the frame that they have. We'll watch Keith Williams later, who's a little different frame wise and style wise, but length is huge. Like I said, first and foremost, keeping the hands off you of the offensive lineman. But the other things are, batted passes. An extra inch or two can be the difference between a touchdown pass and a 3 and out, a third down and a team's punting. When you're trying to, attack a ball carrier who's running to the edge, and they probably have somewhat of a speed advantage of you or an agility advantage on you, they're probably not, that extra couple inches of length will allow you to have a chance to make the tackle. You can also swipe at feet. There's just so many positives about having length. And really at the edge rushing position, if you have the length and the athleticism, the big thing is just putting on the bulk then. Because most of these long guys, like you see with him, he can really rush the passer. He can come off the edge. He's more athletic than the tackle. But at some point, you're going to come up against guys who are, maybe not as athletic as you, but are going to be much bigger, and they're going to, be in the same realm of athleticism. So then you got to work different pass rush moves. Like right there, that offensive tackle had no chance. He just beat him with pure speed. And what I really liked, what I saw there, is the way he dipped his shoulder and then got vertical again once he was past the offensive lineman. But, a lot of the length guys and the speed guys, when they get to the next level, they really struggle because they only had that one move before. It was two, I guess. They could win with speed off the edge, or they could cross face if the offensive lineman overset them. At some point at the college level, you're going to need to go speed to power, which means you're beating them upfield, getting that offensive tackle back on their heels in a pass rush. But then when they're in phase with you, you're going to have to go from speed to power, which means you're going from that upfield rush to getting in his chest, punching his hands, and getting him back on his feet. And in order to do that, you've got to have some strength, obviously some explosiveness, and some mass to you. So that's the biggest thing that you worry about with these high end. I just saw, oh gosh, what's his name? Big time pass rusher who's committed to Tennessee. I've been seeing so many kids. I just saw him down at Platt, Shandavian Bradley. And he is so long, so athletic, unblockable, plays receiver too, does everything. But, even a player of his caliber, you say, is he going to be able to put on that weight and go speed to power at the next level? Situationally, when he can get in a wide 9 and just get after it in a known passing down where they're working stunts on the inside, there's always value for those guys, no matter what. A guy who can rush the passer, even if he's just a 1 or 2 down guy, there's value there. But the guys who are the complete package, they're the guys who also have the mass. They have multiple tools in their repertoire for pass rushing, and they combine the length, the mass, and the athleticism. But can't say enough about the length. Coaches drool over it, and it is very important.
For sure. So we're going to move on to another guy who has a very different skill set, and that's that's Keith Williams, who is out of Catholic Memorial. You got to see him in person earlier this year in that big Week 1 showdown that they had. That I know you and John went to see in person. He's got a Boston College offer. He's listed 6'1", 230. One of the things I like about him is that he has a motor, and he plays with a little bit of nasty. And I think that he's got, he's a guy that could definitely, I could see him working his way into the mix at a couple different positions because of that motor.
For sure. So different than the last guy. He doesn't have that 6'6" length. He's built more like an interior linebacker, a middle linebacker type, but he has the skill set to play the edge. And at 6'1", he actually has, he was bigger and longer than I thought he was. The thing that you like about him is he can already go speed to power. He can win with speed. Now, he's going to have trouble keeping, elite offensive linemen's hands off of him because they have such a reach advantage. But he does have decent length for his size. The thing that you like about him is he can do what you see right there. He can come off the edge. He can run his straight line speed. He has a motor. But what he also brings to the table is what you see right there. He lines up. He takes on a block, he sets an edge, and then can shed and make a tackle. So he's not a one-trick pony. This is a guy who can tackle in space. He can rush the passer. He can set the edge. He's very savvy. I just love his brand of football. Like you said, he's got some nasty to him. He is a physical kid. He's much better in person, even, in my opinion, than he is on film. He has a very dynamic skill set. I've been high on him for a long time. At my last job, I had him rated as a Power 5 kid, 2 years ago. And, I was kind of down that he didn't really have, the offer list that I expected. But then when I went and saw him play in person, I was just like, just not enough people have seen him, and he's just under-recruited. The kid can play. I think he's a definite candidate for Wisconsin. His block destruction's great. He's a physical kid. You see him line up inside right there. He knows his reads. He plays with bend. He can set the edge. Like I said, he's got a little bit of everything. And even though he's not that 6'6" long guy, I saw him bat down some passes as well. And he holds up in all phases of the game. He can play limited zone coverage, set the edge, sack the quarterback, take on double teams. I think he has a lot of upside. I don't know. He's not going to get a lot taller. He's not going to get a lot longer. But he's probably going to get bigger and stronger. And he already has that tough and dependability to him. So, he's a kid who's definitely in the wheelhouse. And if I'm in Wisconsin and I have a need, I'm looking in state and I'm looking towards him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. One more 2023 in-state kid that John mentioned was Racine Horlick's Blake Fletcher, the big middle linebacker, 6'3", 225. Currently committed to Air Force, but I think Wisconsin's looking at him as just sort of a defensive athlete. Just, see where you can find a spot for his athleticism and his instincts on the field. Because I don't know if he ends up on the edge, if he ends up with his, hand in the ground. Tyler Jancy is, it's sort of been since day one. He's going to be the one like true middle linebacker taken here. So it'll be interesting to see what they would do with it with a kid like Horlick. But you see, at least I think when you're watching the film, the why you would want to bring that kind of talent into the program.
Yeah, this is an upside play for me. What is he listed at?
Yeah, 6'3", 225.
Yeah, and you said it's a legit 6'3", 225. Yeah. So when you combine those measurables and then what you see on film and glimpses of who he is, and obviously if he's an Air Force commit, he's a smart kid. He takes care of his business. He's going to be a hard worker. But what I like about him is his versatility. I don't know if he's a linebacker. I don't know if he's a middle linebacker. I don't know if he's an edge. I don't know if he's, ends up being a strong side defensive end or a 3 technique. But there's a lot to like about him. You see him shoot the gap there. Just looking at his stance right there, you'd like to see a little more bend. But then there's times where you see him bend and turn and run and pursue the ball carrier, fight off blocks. So there's a lot to like here. He's very raw. He's a little bit of a waist bender, so I'd like to see him, but that didn't affect him there. And it really doesn't come into play as much at the high school level. At the college level, it does, just because when you play with great bend, you have great change of direction, and you can really be explosive in confined space. But I see enough from him on film and just knowing his legit size that if you're looking for a team take on defense, whether it's linebacker, defensive end, I don't know what he ends up being. Like, I love right there, lateral movement. He reads his keys, folds in, makes the tackle. So, yeah, you see a lot. He plays with his hands right there, the block destruction. So he has the skill set to play linebacker. I don't know if it's going to be on the inside. I don't know if it's on the edge, but he is an upside play in my opinion. And when you've got an athletic kid that's, tough and has a high motor and obviously strong and hardworking, being an Air Force commit, he's a guy who's definitely in the wheelhouse again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We're going to look at two more middle linebackers here going to 24 and 25. Quick question for you to interject, though. When you're looking at, a middle linebacker, someone who's going to have to sort of play like the off-ball role, what are sort of the traits that you would be really looking for in projecting to the next level?
It's evolved so much. Back in the day, you wanted that 6'2", 230-pound guy who was a thumper. Just the way the football game has evolved and offenses, the height for the middle linebacker position doesn't concern me as much as the ability to run sideline to sideline and be that type of defender. You're looking for a smart guy. You want a guy who quarterbacks the defense, and you do want a thumper. You want a guy who is not afraid to run in there and take on an ISO block. You look at block destruction is very important. The ability to come to balance. When you're coming at full speed, a lot of guys play out of control. The best ones, and it's okay to be out of control sometimes, especially if you're able to make the play. But the best players can come with, like their hair's on fire, but are still able to come to balance and make a tackle in space. So I would say the biggest things are sideline to sideline defender, kind of like Janzi is. The guy's going to run. He's going to hit. You want a tough kid. You want a smart kid. You want a guy who's not afraid of contact. And, you want a guy who just really has a versatile skill set. They're not going to be counted on to play too much coverage unless you have an absolute freak where you don't have to play sub packages, and then they can go and carry a tight end down the seam. Or if they're a Tampa 2 type where all of a sudden they're playing a deep third safety. The position's definitely changed a lot over the years. The term Midwest Mike gets thrown around a lot because there's not a lot of them left. Because a lot of the Mike linebacker types are more of the run and hit guys. I think of like a Patrick Queen or something, 6 foot, 220 pounds, but runs a 4.40, and he's going to run you down and he's going to hit you. So, Darius Leonard's a great example of the new prototype of kind of that off-ball linebacker position. And it'll continue to change as teams go back to, I don't know about running the triple option, but if they go back to a lot more power football, you're going to go back to a lot more Midwest Mikes as well. So,
and those Midwest Mikes seem to be clustered in Madison as well. They had a couple of them last year in Leo Chenal and Jack Sanborn. I think those are two classic Midwest Mikes. No question.
And they are the Midwest Mikes that you like. Some of these Midwest Mikes, like there's guys who go and play D2 football nowadays. The guy you saw with the neck roll who can, in between the tackles, he's going to make 170 tackles throughout the year, but goes and plays D2 football. A lot of those guys would have been playing at a team like Nebraska back in the day. It's just the way football has evolved. And a lot of those guys do end up at Air Force, actually, because that's the brand of football that they play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's take a look at the first of these two guys. The first is Landon Gauthier, or Gautier. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced, so someone please correct me. From Bayport, listed 6'4", 210. And he's already got an offer from Wyoming. And I think you can see why. I mean, Clint, I know you're a big fan of the Bayport kids usually.
I am a big fan of the Bayport kids. Big fan.
So tell us what you like about, about Gauthier.
I like his combination of frame, athleticism, length, and some of the things that you see him do on film are pretty impressive. Like he pulls the trigger right there. He identified that play right away. I have a feeling he's a guy who studies film. He knows his reads. You see him on the edge right here, shuffle in. Do you see how he gave that kind of head nod and screwed up the guy who only had one guy to block? He was able to give that head nod and then get outside and make the tackle. So there's many ways when I talk about block destruction, there's a lot of ways to do it. And if you can have multiple facets or, multiple tools in your kit to do it, whether it's, butting up a blocker, like you kind of see him do there. The film got a little cloudy, and then, getting off the block, whether it's dipping, like, I can't, it got a little cloudy on me there, but there's one play where I see him dip underneath a blocker and then get vertical and make the tackle. And so I like his bend off the edge right there. With his size and just what you see at a young age, like look at his stance even. He is a technician, plays with his hands right there, fights off a block, doesn't give up, even though he gets trapped inside, finds a way to make the play. This is an instinctual player. He's got the physical skill set. He's got a high motor. I don't know a ton about him outside of film evaluation, but what I've seen from him so far, there's a lot to like, especially with him being an underclassman. I mean, his ceiling is pretty high, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, one more high ceiling linebacker in the state of Wisconsin is 2025 Cooper Catalano. He's already got an Illinois offer, 6'2", listed 6'2", 200. Already looks bigger than that out of Germantown. Yep. John Wynn saw him in person last week, and said he was really impressive in person. And I think you see it, like he pops on film already. Even looking at some of his freshman film, it's really impressive.
This kid's a dude. This kid is a football player. The film, like when you get excited from watching a highlight film, I've never seen the kid in person. Oh, good. The film's clear here, but you get excited about that. Now, the way he was able to, block the punt, regain his balance, scoop the ball flawlessly and return it for a touchdown. I mean, that is just, overall great body mechanics and skill. But you see him do a lot of things on film, and then you think about how old he is and just the amount of upside there. There's a lot of it. Look at his pursuit there. He's sideline to sideline guy. He's gonna run. He's gonna hit. And for him to be able to take on blocks, to be this physical, to be this tough at his age, he's kind of a boy that's a man amongst boys. He's a young kid that's still developing. And I mean, there's just so much to like here. This kid's going to be a multi-Power 5 offer kid. He's a throwback in my opinion. He finds a way to get to the ball. He's disruptive. Bats passes, great at block destruction, high motor, sideline to sideline, sets an edge. Looks like he will develop into a kid who could, play in space a little bit as well. But this guy's just getting started. I think he's going to be a big time player. A lot of the time when these guys are this good and this young, you expect them to grow exponentially each year. And sometimes that can lead to people getting let down or feeling that they didn't develop the way that they thought they would or hoped, because some of these guys, they grew early or they're just, were naturally good at football. But here's the thing with that. When you're that good at that age and you already have the size where, it's not going to be hard to bulk up and put on another 10, 15, 20 pounds, whatever it may be for him over the next 4 or 5 years. And you have that type of skill set, that the kid's going to be a Power 5 football player. I have no question in my mind, even if he doesn't develop a ton more, he's going to get the offers. And then once he gets in that college weight and meal program, this kid's got a chance to be a stud. Before I put the full stamp on him and, want to call and tell all my friends about him,
Cosgrove approved.
To see him in person. Not that matters, but, I'd like to see him in person. I'm happy that John did. I'll have to talk to John about it, get an idea of his actual size, what he thought about his bend, his overall speed, position fit. In the scouting days, I go and look at these kids. Do they have facial hair yet? Do they have hair on their legs? Like, you're trying to how tall is their mom? Do they have any huge people in their family? That's one way to really gauge genetically what the upside is.
See, I would have been a huge genetic upside kid. I've got a 5'11" mom. Like, I had hair on my legs when I was 14, like 13, 12. Like, y'all would have loved that.
Well, dude, no, I don't want if they don't have facial hair and they're 6'6", 290 pounds, they're going to be 6'8", 325 pounds of rip steel and mean appeal. But a 5'11" mom is like having a 6'5" dad. When the moms are in the 5'11", 6 foot range, it gives me a lot of hope for growth potential with a player. How tall are you now, Perko?
6'3".
There you go. 5'11" mom.
Yep.
Get you at least 6'3", unless dad's like 5'5", Yeah.
He's also 5'11". So.
Well, there you go.
There you have it. Well, there you have it. Little genetics talk here on Badger Blitz TV. So thank you, as always, Clint, for being here. You can catch Clint on all of the social medias at @rivals_Clint. Make sure to subscribe to the Badger Blitz YouTube page here. Thank you, guys. First of all, officially 1,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for
let's go.
Yeah, baby, let's go. Thank you guys for supporting us. Continue to support us in the Badgers Den as well. Supporting the podcast. Bernie and I had Michael Bennett, the fastest man in the land, on the show this week. That was a lot of fun.
Dude, how's Mike doing?
Dude, he seems great. He was fantastic. We had a blast. So it was.
You got to shoot me his phone number when we get off. I need to catch up with Mike. I absolutely love him.
Yeah, he was the man. He was very generous with his time. Some great stories. About getting knocked out by Brian Urlacher and the such.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, man, definitely tap into that one. We had a lot of fun with that, and as always, we'll be back with Monday Morning Fullback after New Mexico State. And until then, I'm Matt Perkins. He's Clint Cosgrove, and we will see you in the den.
The den.